Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to think you're the best thing since sliced bread. That's fine.
This week, we start 2023 in style with Courtney Black on the High Performance Podcast.
When I used to go to the family parties and they didn't know that I was taking food in the toilet in the absolute depth of it, they just thought I was being miserable.
Were you not deeply lonely at this point?
It's so weird because that's the time that you enjoy. I was losing myself bit by bit and I thought this needs to stop. There's a fine line between doing things because you feel like you have to and doing things because you actually want to.
The Courtney Black brand was not necessarily a lie, but it was built on a kind of a falsehood, really.
Oh, but it wasn't staying like that.
Well, exactly. Because once you changed, this had to change.
This was the thing.
Right?
No, it wasn't staying like that, but it had nothing to do with my personality in there. I wasn't being genuine.
So when did you start being authentic?
It was literally through lockdown. I've not got a stitch of makeup on. I'm sweating. Nobody cared about what I looked like anymore. They cared about how I was making them feel.
Yeah.
And being myself is what people enjoyed.
And I think that is an amazing story. But I'm also really interested in the business side. Why do you believe you're a successful businesswoman?
There's always something going in my brain. My friends think I'm mental. And unfortunately, I had to let go of my best friend because they don't want the best for you. Always check in with how people are. Because it's not just you that matters. It's them as well. To scale out, you've got to have other people that are better at you than what you are.
Yeah.
You're not going to be the best at everything. I was gaining 30,000 followers overnight. I had my first panic attack in my office in that room and I could not breathe. I felt like a nutcase. I actually rang the therapist crying my eyes out.
Really?
So when did you stop feeling like a nutter then?
When it started working.
Listen, I want to say a massive thank you to all of our new subscribers, but most people that watch this content on YouTube don't subscribe. I want to change that. The more subscribers, then the more amazing we can make high performance. And I've had a lovely message actually from Rob who says, I only recently discovered the High Performance channel and I watched the full Eddie Howe and Tyson Fury interviews, both some of the best content I've seen in the last 5 years on YouTube. Listen, if you agree and you want to keep this amazing stuff coming for free, then hit subscribe right now. Thank you so much. So Courtney, what does high performance mean to you?
For me, high performance is probably a bit different to what other people have said. And it's being successful at something that you're being truly authentic with. I've become the most successful version of myself and the biggest high performer that I could be. For such a long time, I was trying to live up to like a standard that I couldn't maintain. And I lost myself completely with that. I've become the most successful version of myself and the biggest high performer that I could be when I've stopped worrying so much about stuff like that. I mean, I've had such huge pressure on my shoulders from such a young age. And I feel like that is what made me lose myself. I mean, I had an eating disorder when I was severely young, like I was like 17. And that's completely life-changing. But that's because I was so worried about what people thought when they looked at me. And then I started having panic attacks when my business was probably at its biggest, when it was booming, because I was so worried about like what people thought about my workouts. I know it sounds silly, but about what people was doing, if they liked what I was doing and if they liked what I was providing them. And then that again made me lose myself again. I've become the most successful version of myself when I've stopped worrying about that so much and I've just become authentic to who I am. I think anyone that you meet and they're being truly authentic to who they are, you start loving them, right? You love what they do. You love how they are as a person. You feel like you can connect to them. Everyone thinks a completely different way and you can't control the way that someone thinks. And I think the best way to be a high performer is to just love what you do. That's personally for me what being a high performer is.
So let's roll the clock back then to the period where you were struggling with an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of sounds from what you said like you were so concerned about what the outside world thought of you.
100%. Like,
where did that come from?
I don't know. I think I used to be a Latin dancer. So I used to dance and I think I've always danced my whole life. And actually, no, I know where it's come from because I remember the one time I was quite a chubby kid, right? And my mum put me in this like baby pink lycra Latin dress. And I remember this picture being like shown of me and I was mortified. And
so how old were you, Courtney?
Probably 14.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember there was just being, all the girls were just stick thin and they was like, you're going to be a better dancer if you can throw yourself around, if you can be as light as possible. And that stuck in my head like massively. And then I would look in the mirror every single day, like a 14, 15-year-old and pinch my belly. The first thing I would do is pinch my belly when I woke up in the morning. And I feel like beauty standards were so big back then. And it was even worse in like the dancing world, in the performing world. And I was so worried about other people and what they thought when they looked at me that it completely took over my life. I mean, I would wake up in the morning at like 4 a.m. when I was working in the city. So I got my first job in the city when I was like 17, 18. And I would get the night bus to the gym at like 4 a.m. going through Bow, which was so dangerous. I wouldn't even do that now. just so I could get to the gym for a couple of hours in the morning and I could train. And I was so worried about what other people thought. I was worried that people thought that I was overweight, that people thought I wasn't going to be the best dancer, that it completely consumed me. Like, all I thought about was being skinny. And obviously from that, it become like a self-hating sort of thing. I never really loved myself. I always judged other people based on what they looked at because I thought people was judging me. I've become quite a horrible person, I think. I mean, I remember looking at people and thinking, God, you don't look great. Or the first thing I'd do when I walked in the room is judge someone on what they look like, rather than how they held themselves or how they spoke to me.
Or even the things that they said, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, I would rather than learn from people, I'm surrounded by so many different people these days. And I would never, ever, the first thing I think about isn't the hair or how much weight they've got on them. And being a big part of my job, I mean, I make people look better, right? But I also make people feel better. But I make people look better. But I never once look at someone and think, God, what are they wearing? Or why do they look like that? Whereas that was all I used to think when I looked at someone. And I didn't really understand the true value of a person. And that goes back to what I said earlier about being authentic to who you are. Being authentic to who you are is not sitting there and judging someone for what they look like. But I was so absorbed by that because that's what I thought people thought of me.
So can I ask you, like, you described that pink dress you were wearing, and that was a trigger for you of being concerned about your size and your shape. Was anything said to you at that time as well that reinforced it?
I think you get like the girls and they're quite catty and they don't have to directly say it to you, but you can tell by someone's attitude what they're thinking. It might have just been me being really insecure.
Right.
But I think when I was in school, I literally once got called Mr. Blobby, you know, the pink one. And I just remember being called that in primary school and it stuck with me for ages. I was not bullied, don't get me wrong.
Right.
I was never bullied in school. I was always completely different to anyone else, but that was just by my attitude. And I chose to not really had that many friends in school because I was always on the go. I was different to anyone else. I used to do my homework in my breaks and stuff. It wasn't by what I looked like. I was never bullied by what I looked like, which I think a lot of people are, and that takes it by that. But I think it was just me being worried about what other people thought of me all the time. So it wasn't directly people saying things about me. It was just a constant worry in my head.
So take us into your head then and give us some examples of the conversations you were having with yourself from 17 onwards.
I think it was more every time someone looked at me, it wasn't because they was looking at me because I was maybe dancing really well or because I looked good. It was they was looking at me because I looked awful or I looked overweight or something was wrong with me. And I was so paranoid about that. Now, I walk down the street now and if someone looks at me, you look back at me, smile, right? But I would look back at them and think, what are they looking at? Or why are they looking at me like that? And I don't really know where that insecurity come from because I've always been such a confident person. But I think I used to mask that with saying that I was really confident. I never got nervous and stuff like that when I was a kid. And I used to use that as like my fuel. But when I was dancing, I was crippled with this like horrible feeling of like self-loathing and hated everything about myself. And I took that into school. I took that into relationships. I took that into obviously getting older and having that eating disorder and being that judgmental person. I remember when I started being a personal trainer, I was still so worried about what people thought of me and I still couldn't understand when people didn't feel that way. I used to judge pretty much all my clients. I made one girl cry because she once come in and because she said to me that she couldn't understand why she couldn't stop eating. She couldn't understand why she couldn't say no to this extra bit of food on the weekend. And I just went to her, stop being so lazy. I couldn't understand why someone couldn't think the way that I thought about food. And I just remember I made her cry and that was such a turning point in my career because I thought I never want anyone to feel like that. And I just thought, why am I being so ununderstanding? And I could never understand how people didn't think the way that I thought. And it's quite an upsetting thing, but now I can look back and that made me like the business person that I am today, and that made me help so many people today because I've learnt from their mistakes.
And I think this will resonate with a lot of people who go through their lives thinking those people are unkind or they're sniggering behind my back or, you know, everyone else is out to get me. There's a really important realization here that all of this is us projecting actually how we feel about ourselves onto the rest of the world.
100%. Nobody else walks down the road and looks at you and thinks, what have she got on? That's you in your head. Only since I've stopped caring so much about what I look like is when I'm so less judgmental. Like
Right.
when
So how do we, because people listening to this would love to be where you are now, but they are where you were then.
It was
I'd
such
love
a
to
turning
go
point
through the
for me in my
process.
life. I remember I rang my mum during the first lockdown and I called her and I said, Mum, I cannot believe how happy I am. And I've been so unhappy for so many years. And it's because every single morning I woke up and I pinched myself. I woke up and I judged myself. I woke up and I said everything that I hated about myself. I woke up and I thought everything was dependent on looks. Everyone was judging me. You've got to be authentic. You've got to be true to yourself. Like that's the only way you're going to be happy is be true to yourself. Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to think you're the best thing since sliced bread. That's fine. But the people that are true to you and they do love you are going to love you for who you are. And I think so many of us try to be something we're not. We try to be perfect. We try to compare ourselves to other people. Like I could be here and I could try, like for example, last night I said to you guys I had that big job. I could have went there and in that room I could have put on a posh voice. I could have changed who I was. But that's going to really show, like, you're not going to be authentic to yourself and you're going to start hating yourself. You've just got to be true to who you are. People are either going to like you or they're not going to like you for it. But does it really matter?
See, I think what you're saying makes perfect sense and is really inspiring. But for a lot of people, it's almost like you're looking through a glass that you
100%.
can see it, but you can't reach it. So tell us, how do you get to a place where you do stop caring about other people, where you do feel confident that however I speak, I look, I sound is me and I'm happy with that?
I think it's baby steps. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. It's the same with an eating disorder. You're not going to recover from an eating disorder overnight. And there is always going to be parts of your life when you're going to be triggered by that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like this every day. Don't get me wrong. Ever. I wake up some days and I still pinch myself and I still look at myself and I think, you're not good enough. I doubted myself yesterday. I doubted myself this morning before I come on here. You snap out of it. Do you know what I
How
mean?
do you snap out of it?
You've got to remember, I used to do silly things like get Post-it notes and stick them on my mirrors and write down all the things that I liked about myself rather than being so critical of all the things I didn't like about myself.
See, why is that silly?
I know, that's what I'm saying, but we all laugh at things like that, don't we? In our heads, we laugh and we think, oh, what are we doing that for?
Do we?
It's all
Like,
self-development.
we're not laughing though, are we? It
No,
sounds to me like
exactly.
a really nice...
It's a great idea. But when I first started doing that, I thought, God, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? Because we've been embedded for so many years. We've been told for so many years, self-development is silly. Well, I was anyway.
Right.
I was told that maybe it was growing up in the East End. Have a hard shell. Have a hard exterior. Don't let anyone see that you're feeling down or feeling upset. But I mean, I got a therapist. Helped massively. Helped me with my business massively. Started having panic attacks, and I thought I always used to look at people who had therapists and laugh at that. Why are we laughing at that?
Like, why would you find that funny?
Why would you laugh at that? Yeah, you.
Well, that's what I'm asking now. So
Yeah.
take us back to you when you were laughing at
I
hearing
think
it with others.
Yeah, again, I think it's just from my upbringing. Like, nobody ever had a therapist.
Sure.
Nobody ever spoke about things like that. If I told my mum, for example, that I was like chewing and spitting out my food, and if I told my mum that I was thinking that people was thinking about this, she probably wouldn't have even understood me. She probably would have just went, why are you doing that? She wouldn't have said to me, okay, Courtney, let's get you a therapist. One, we couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
And two, like, it's just something that wasn't
So
done.
did you tell anyone when you were in the absolute depths of despair
No.
of your eating disorder?
No. I mean, I was really, really skinny. And even then, like, I got people coming up to me in the gym and saying, are you okay? Like, do you need some help? But none of my family ever noticed it. I mean, they used to say to me, when I used to go to the family parties and they didn't know that I was taking food in the toilet, chewing it out, spitting it out, and in the absolute depth of it, they just thought I was being miserable. They thought I was being moody. They said to me, why is Courtney not interacting? Why is Courtney, like, picking at her food? And that's the worst thing you can say to someone when they're in the depth of an eating disorder is, why are you doing that? I don't know.
So tell us then, because we're fathers of young daughters as
Yeah.
well. So there's a part of me as I'm hearing this, it's sending shivers down my spine.
Yeah, of
So
course.
tell us, what can we do? Like, not with our own children necessarily, but if somebody is like that and it's easy to label them as miserable or disconnected or moody, what can we, like, what kind of questions should we be asking that help people?
I would personally say, like, you've got to really tread on thin waters. Like, it's such a hard topic to discuss, and I was so defensive. So if my mum, for example, I had to wait until the point that I knew I was ready to tell my mum, because it's an embarrassing thing to tell your mum that you're doing certain things is pretty embarrassing, and you're also quite scared that she's going to tell you off, or she's going to think that you're not the daughter that she thought you was. I think it's asking the questions that nobody else asks. How are you feeling? Like, why do you think that you're not eating this? Do you understand the consequences it's going to have on your body? I only truly stopped doing it when I Googled myself, like, what are the consequences of me doing this? What are the health, like, am I really, like, benefiting my health, or am I disrupting my health? I found out that I was making my tooth decay. I was causing stomach ulcers. That's the only thing that stopped me. Not because I thought, like, I was in a bad headspace, because that bad headspace was something, like, I quite enjoyed being segregating myself. Like,
Did you?
Yeah, like, because when you're so emotionally attached to food, as mad as it sounds, like, that time when you're sitting in the bathroom and you're spitting food out is the time when you're on your own. Is a time when you're getting that little bit of relief, and it's making you feel better because you don't want to eat food in front of people.
Well, you're not lonely, like deeply lonely at this point.
100%, 100%.
Dark secret though.
It's so weird because that's the time that you enjoy. Like, the time that you're sitting by yourself and you're not worrying about what other people are thinking about yourself because you're on your own is like the best time. And I can't relate back to it now. I literally can't go back to it now, because if I even have a thought like this, I'm so disturbed by it. And whenever someone comes to me through Instagram or they email me, all I want to do is help them. And all I want to do is tell them, like, that's not a good time to be in. That's not the best time. But for me, I couldn't wait to get away. I used to go on dates, for example. Couldn't wait to get out there because I couldn't wait to get home and be on my own and chew and spit my food out and stuff like that. Could not wait. I've just been on a date with someone. Yeah. I've been sitting there having a conversation, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, can't wait to get home. It
took over your life completely.
Completely.
So I still want to really drill down into how you begin to emerge from this, particularly for those that are listening to this and they're still in the depths of it and they are crying out for you to say something that they can latch onto and go, right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make that call, or I'm going to think in a certain way.
It's hard because you have to truly want to.
Yeah.
And I think for a long period of my time, I didn't want to come out of that. And it was, I think I just wanted to be happy again. I wanted to stop losing relationships. I wanted to stop losing friendships. I was losing friendships. I was losing relationships. I was losing jobs. I had no personality. I was losing myself. And I think you will feel that. You will feel that you're losing yourself. And it's not just about what you look like. Like, doing all these things, as I say, you're on your own a lot of the time. You're losing friends. You're not going to family events. You're losing your personality. You're being snappy at people. You're losing your period. So you're not feeling 100%. You're just not being the person that you should be. And until you feel that way, because a lot of people don't feel that way and they don't want to snap out of it. So I'm not going to be able to magically tell someone a cure. It's the same as if someone's a really bad drug addict. Unless they want to come out of that, however much rehab they have and however much people tell them, like, oh, do this, I'll do this, I'll just stop drinking. It's not as easy as that. You have to mentally want to be there. You have to mentally want to make that change. And then you can start thinking of ways that are going to truly help you. It might be as easy as taking a mirror out of your living room. So you stop looking at yourself in the mirror. It might be as easy as I couldn't have a toaster, for example, for such a long period of time because I genuinely thought I was addicted to toast because I had such a bad relationship with food. It's as easy as starting putting things in that you think are going to trigger you and moving away from it. But turning the mirror around, distancing yourself from people that you might find triggering, unfollowing people on social media, stop watching things that you're finding triggering. I used to watch a lot of model programs. I used to watch a lot of catwalk shows and stuff like that where people are really skinny. I used to watch a lot of people's food diaries and how these celebrities get slim. And I used to read a lot of magazines that would pick people apart for what they look like. Remove these triggers from your life, and then you're less likely to be triggered, right?
So just to pick up on that, you were then inviting into your life then all of the things that were making you think in the way you did. So when you were looking at people with these toxic thoughts about how they looked and how they felt about you, you were absorbing that through all kinds of types of media.
Exactly. You couldn't get away from it. I mean, I was born in 96, so at that time it was the best beach bodies, the best magazines. I used to run on the treadmill to the Victoria's Secret catwalk for hours.
And I've read you've told that story where you actually did 2 hours and collapsed while you were watching it.
On the cruise, yeah. I was known as the girl that used to run. I had a treadmill in my bedroom, for example. I was known as the girl who used to run to the Victoria's Secret catwalk. That was my motivation. Why is my motivation not thinking, okay, I want to be able to run 10, 15K because it's an accomplishment, which it is now. Mine was, I want to be able to run for 2 hours because I want to burn off all the food that I've ate that day.
So really what we're saying here is everything that you did was about negativity, not about positivity.
100%. 100%. Everything was, I hated my body, so I wanted to exercise.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way that I looked, so I wanted to exercise. I didn't feel like food was doing anything for me except for making me fat, so I didn't want to eat food.
So psychologists call this, you can either move towards something or you can move away from it. So we've established what you didn't want, what you were often moving away from, of being perceived as being fat or unattractive. What was your trigger to identify what you wanted to move towards instead, like a more healthy version of you? Like what happened that allowed you to set a new sense of direction?
I just wanted to feel good. I just wanted to feel good. I didn't want to feel unhappy anymore. I didn't want to feel miserable anymore.
But was that one single moment where you realised, I'm actually really unhappy, or was it a cumulative
I think it
process?
was a cumulative, to be honest with you. It was just before lockdown when it was like that sort of hit. But it was over probably a year of being in unhappy relationships where I was with people who didn't even show me any affection. They didn't like me for who I was. I was really like letting people get away with murder, letting people treat me like I shouldn't have been treated. I was letting friends walk all over me. I was going out a lot and I was going like heavily raving. I was just doing things that didn't even like give me any sort of happiness at all. I remember I was filled to the nines with fillers. I had lip fillers, cheek fillers, jaw fillers, because I was, again, trying to be the perfect person, trying to be something that I wasn't. I was walking out the door and I was so concerned that, because I've always had quite a big following, that people would look at me and think, God, that's not who we follow. People didn't believe in who I was, and I didn't believe in who I was.
You were so twisted up, weren't you?
Yeah, I was so sick and tired of it. Like, how can that be a happy young girl? I mean, I was 21 at the time.
You were having fillers and things like that, 21?
Completely. But again, this comes with social media. Everyone was offering me it for free. So, I mean, I was 21. Yeah. I didn't like the way that I looked. I was trying to look like someone that I wasn't. I mean, and people don't believe me when I say I literally looked in the mirror one day and I thought, that needs to go. That is literally what happened to me.
Go on, what? Like, what do you mean by that?
Take us into that day. You woke up in the morning.
Well, I've actually got pictures of the day. I'll show you after. But I was in the gym, training my clients. I think I was 22 at this time. And this was in December. And we went into lockdown in March, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was quick. I went to the gym and I was training my client and I looked in the mirror. Obviously, I knew that people used to sort of mock me and say things to me. I mean, I've got a social media following. I used to get the messages.
What sort of stuff?
Oh, what's going on with her face? Why have you got all that in your face? Like, you need to stop. You look like an alien.
And when you read them previous to this, how did you feel then?
I just thought people was... I never took it in. Yeah. I liked doing these things to myself. But obviously, they do keep in your mind, right? They do keep going. And I just remember being in work this day and I looked nothing like myself. I remember what I used to look like. My lips were like this. And I knew every single time I walked around that gym, I thought that someone was looking at me. And that's when I knew that this had to change, because how draining that every single time you walk around a gym when you working with your friends, you thought that someone was looking at your face. Like, there probably even wasn't. But I remember I said to Jay, who owned the gym, I said, this needs to go. And he went, what do you mean? I went, tomorrow this is being done. And I went, if I feel differently, I'll just get it done again. But right now I'm so unhappy and I don't feel like myself and this needs to go. And then I woke up the next day, I followed through with it, I got it all dissolved. My face was, honestly, I'll show you pictures after and you're going to be completely shocked. I did not look anything like myself. Like, I was a completely different person. And again, that comes with the mask. Like, I'm worried that people were looking at me thinking I'm not
That's exactly what it all was. It was just a mask you were wearing, wasn't it?
And when that went, people do not believe me. I instantly was happier. I instantly walked out the door. Of course, I still didn't think I looked amazing, whatever. I mean, I think I look amazing now, but I didn't think I looked amazing then because I was still quite self-conscious. But I walked in that gym a couple of days later when it was all sorted, and I didn't think that anyone was staring at me because of that anymore.
Wow.
They was like, I just felt normal. I just felt like a normal person.
So something had changed then. While you were doing all these things you'd always done, while you were wearing this mask, something underneath had changed. You'd got to a point somehow.
Just had enough.
Just had enough.
Just had enough. I think it was, I just had enough. I just wanted to be happy. I've always been such a confident and bubbly girl, and I was not confident or bubbly anymore. I was miserable. I was moody. I was judgmental. And I just remembered who I was when I used to be. And I think my mum used to say to me, why are you so like Aggie? Why are you so moody? Because I wasn't who I was anymore. I was losing myself bit by bit. I was going out with idiots. I was surrounding myself with idiots. And everyone was a bit shocked when I unfollowed loads of people that I was going out with, like that I was mingling with on social media. And just before lockdown, they was like to me, why have you unfollowed us? And I said, because I don't want to follow you anymore.
And what were they bringing to your life that you no longer wanted in your life?
They was posting angry stories. They was angry at everyone. They was always like screenshotting things, like taking the piss out of people, like being judgmental. Like they was always going out and like, I've never been a party girl. They're going out there videoing each other, like just being reckless, like causing havoc. And I thought, this isn't me. Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I actually doing? And it was giving me it was just not making me who I was. And I was so angry that I'd fell into this person. And I thought, this needs to stop.
And did they ever turn that decision you made to stop unfollowing them, did they turn on you and start applying some of
100%.
that anger towards
They all think I think I'm prestigious. Oh, like I've moved to Southwest London now. I've got a bigger following. Oh, I'm not. I'm just happier.
That's because they're still in the world that you were in before, right?
Yeah.
Which is dominated by opinion.
Yeah.
And we talk often on this podcast about opinion is totally valueless, right? It's all about empathy. But you had been sort of dragged into this world where opinion was above everything else. So
100%.
Your opinion of other people was all that mattered. Their opinion of you was all that you thought about. All the people in your life did on social media was share their opinions. There was no room for empathy. No one ever, I imagine, ever said to you in that period, how are you really feeling? I see you look amazing on your Instagram, but what's the truth about how you're feeling? And I think this is a really powerful conversation because all of our children and all the young people that listen to this podcast are growing up in a world where they are taught, you've got to have an opinion. You've got to be aggressive. And the worst thing is the opinion is that everyone else is doing fine and we're doing shit. That's not what's going on. We're all struggling. We're all flawed. We all have self-doubts, but we're all desperate to show the world that we look great and we look amazing. And that's what you did.
Yeah, 100%.
And it killed you.
Killed me, honestly killed me. And my therapist told me one vital lesson is what you're thinking is not what someone else is thinking. Your emotions are your own and someone else's emotions are their own. When someone says something to you and you don't like what they're saying, don't always take it on face value because you don't understand what's going through their head.
Yep.
They could say something to you and you've took it in the completely different way to how they meant it, but that's their own emotions. So don't always, have you ever read that book of How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie,
It's such an amazing book. And it's like, it's talking about how people are going to perceive you, how you perceive other people, and taking things just for face value and just for how they are. People don't always mean what they're saying.
Yeah.
People don't always mean, like, they're not always trying to be horrible. They're not always trying to put you down, or they're not always, them kids, when they said Mr. Blobby, they didn't know that was going to stick with me. These people, my mum didn't know that when she used to say to me, oh, you need to get into this dress, that I was going to take it in a certain way. I mean, for example, yesterday, my mate went to me, don't wear white on camera because it's going to make you look big. She didn't know that I had that was going to trigger my eating disorder. Wore it anyway. But
and empathy tells us that's a throwaway comment.
Yeah.
That she hasn't thought about in great detail.
Yeah.
Opinion would be, well, why are you saying that about me?
Exactly.
What do I look like? How do I say? So it's been brilliant to hear all the things that you took out of your life, from friends to face filler, right? Apart from the therapist, what are the things that you brought into your life that were really good for you?
Actually taking time for myself and saying no to things that I didn't want to do. I used to be so worried about what if people would say if I ended up not wanting to go to a party, ended up not wanting to go out for dinner with someone. Sometimes the best thing you can do is actually just give yourself some time. For example, if I say to someone that I'm going to go for dinner with them on Friday, but then I decide that I don't want to go for dinner with them on Friday because it's going to be a lot better for me to, I don't know, sit indoors, have a bath, go for a walk, listen to a podcast, then I'm going to do that rather than trying to please everyone, be such a people pleaser all the time. And I think adding things into my life that really, truly mean value to me, spending more time with my family rather than spending time with people that I'm just trying to impress all the time. I mean, I used to spend time with boys and girls. It was so superficial. Like, I was getting nothing from these relationships and not forming a bond with my actual family. And I was putting all my attention into people that was making me feel like shit, rather than my family was making me feel amazing and actually cared for me. So little things. I think little things can really, truly improve your life. Getting fresh air, prioritising getting fresh air, prioritising spending a bit of time just going out for a coffee and maybe speaking to someone new, going out for a coffee and not taking your phone with you and smiling at someone rather than when someone looks at you looking away because you're worried, oh, what are they trying to flirt at me? Are they judging me? Just meet new people, be around new circumstances. You never know where life's going to take you.
Well, it sounds like, listening to you, that stop doing things allowed you space to actually start asking yourself some pretty significant questions, both personally and professionally. Like, we interviewed Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, who spoke around the catalyst for him was the death of his father, that had allowed him to realise that he'd been living a life of other people's expectations of what he felt he should be doing and the jobs that he should be doing. And he shared with us a concept called Ikigai. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Yeah. It's a Japanese term that it's basically about identifying a sense of purpose in your life. And there's been research from a guy called Dan Buettner that he wrote a book called The Blue Zones, where people live longer, healthier, happier lives. And one of the factors of that is they have this sense of Ikigai, a sense of purpose, that's often centered around 4 questions. What do I love doing? What difference can I make to the rest of the world? What can bring me money, and what am I really good at? So I'm interested. I
think all of them go hand in hand, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but listening to you, I think that, like you say, stop going out on a Friday night with people that you don't give a shit about, and actually like have a bath, go for a walk, do things that are good for you. Opened up the space for you to start answering those questions.
Exactly.
So I'm interested about how you would apply those questions to what happened next in your career.
Good question. So, like, obviously, I don't think you're ever, as I said earlier, I don't think you're ever going to be truly successful at something if you don't love it and if you're not being genuine with it. So I always ask myself that question before I go into any job. Am I doing this for money? Am I doing this because I actually want to do it? Is it going to stress me out? Do I feel like it's going to serve me a purpose? I mean, again, I was doing jobs when I was unhappy simply because they was paying the bills. I felt nothing good was coming from this. I didn't feel good when I was doing it. I didn't feel good when I was posting it. I didn't feel good during it. And I just felt like I wasn't being myself at all. Whereas now, obviously, everyone wants to earn money, right? I'm not going to stand here and say, just do things that you love, because we all love not doing much. We all love seeing our family. But unfortunately, we've got to earn a living. But I think there's a fine line between doing things because you feel like you have to, and again, doing things because you actually want to and because you actually care about the cause. And I think it's just tapping into that, and it's hard to explain to someone, but it's tapping into something that you truly love and giving it 100%, because it's hard to do, isn't it?
Well, what's interesting here is that you'd built a brand. The Courtney Black brand was built entirely on not necessarily a lie, but it was built on a kind of a falsehood, really, based around all this toxicity. So it was built on.
Oh, but it wasn't staying like that.
Exactly.
This was the thing.
Because it couldn't. Because once you changed, this had to change. This was the thing. Right?
No. It wasn't staying like that. I grew. I built a really successful business at a young age. Well, I mean, it's nowhere near where my business is now. But I mean, I remember I was writing these ebooks, and I earned a really good living when I was obviously really unhappy. I was training people. I was doing 14-hour days in this studio. I was successful. Like, I was doing really well. And then it went like this. It just went. People didn't care about me anymore on social media. I was losing clients because I was being so miserable and I wasn't understanding people and I wasn't truly tapping into people's, like, they didn't want to be around me.
How hard was that for you? Because I imagine you based a lot of your self-worth on the love you got on social media.
100%. All I cared about was money as well, though. All I cared about was what I looked like, and all I cared about was money. And all I thought was, how can I do this? I was this close to quitting being a trainer, this close. And the last thing that I'd done was I started writing them ebooks, and then I actually truly got so much love from the messages that I was getting, people saying, you've made me feel healthier, you've made me a happier person. And rather than people saying to me, oh, I want to look like you, nobody cared about what I look like anymore. They cared about how I was making them feel. And that was life-changing for me. Like, people were sending me in, like, it's helped their kids, it's helped this, because I was talking about how I gained weight, I was talking about how I was getting myself feeling better, how they could like exercise within a small amount of time, how they could feel better. And rather than people saying, oh, I want to look like you, how do I look like you, how do I get skinny like you, how do I do this, how do I do that, they was actually thinking, wow, you've made me feel better.
So were you writing these ebooks after you'd made that decision to remove the fillers and you'd...
No, during.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
I'd gained weight. So I wasn't slim anymore. I was a healthy weight, but I was still fully filled up to the nines.
Okay.
And I'd wrote the ebooks. I'd got quite well at that. Maybe this was, again, towards that decision.
And were the ebooks, like when you read them now, like, do you still stand by the advice? Was it authentically you coming out on the page?
It was all about training. So it wasn't anything about me as a person.
Okay.
So I wouldn't ever say that they're against my values. I mean, I would now want someone to be a bit more free flowing with their exercise, with their food and stuff like that. They were still coming from a place of exercises to look good.
Okay.
But I mean, all the stuff in there is still
Yeah.
valuable information, if that makes sense. But it had nothing to do with my personality in there.
Okay.
I wasn't being genuine, or I wasn't being authentic, or I wasn't being...
So when did you start being authentic then?
When
and telling people the truth on social, and what impact did that have for your following and the reaction you got?
It was literally through lockdown, because I first started doing the live workouts when I thought I need to train. It was selfish, completely selfish of me. I started doing these live workouts because I thought, okay, if I turn up to I think I had like 280,000 followers on Instagram. And I thought, if I say that I'm going to do a live workout every day for these people, I'm then going to stick to my training routine. Little did I know that every day everyone was going to join, and it got up to like 30,000, 35,000 live views on a daily basis.
Wow.
And I was being, you can't hide. You're with all these people on a camera. You cannot be a fake person every day for like 5 months. It would be really hard. It's like being on a TV show, right? You can't be fake on a TV show, I don't think, if it's documenting you every second of the day. I was turning up, and remember as well, I'm exercising, I'm doing burpees, I've not got a stitch of makeup on, I'm sweating, and everyone loved me for it. And I was just like, nothing matters. Like, what I looked like didn't matter. The fact that I was bending over and I had belly rolls, people loved me for it. They tuned in every day because they felt like they was with a friend.
Yeah.
And being myself is what people enjoyed.
So you realised that you had it wrong all those years.
Had it wrong all these years. I'm trying to, if only I'd done that like all them years ago, who knows where my business would have been. But it needed that. I mean, it's unfortunate that the world had to go into lockdown and it had to be that. But I turned up every day. And of course, at first, I was so worried about the people that was looking at me on this camera. But that instantly went when I knew how much people was... I mean, I used to get messages going, I love how you've come on this morning. My kids are loving you. You're putting a smile on my face. Like, how rewarding is that? Rather than being, wow, you look good.
And
Right.
it was rewarding because it was true energy. This
Yeah.
isn't like, this wasn't the next phase of fakery. Right now I'm going to pretend to be really like driven and
Yeah.
excited
Yeah.
to help people out. This was the real you.
Yeah.
And I think that is an amazing story to go from feeling that you had to lie to the world, right? And put all of that at the forefront of what you were doing to get to the point where it's total freedom. But I'm also really interested in the business side because there are loads of people that are themselves on social media, but they don't run a business in the way that you do. So can we talk about the business side of your life?
Yeah.
Why do you believe you're a successful businesswoman?
Well, going back to when I was a kid, I'm not a special person at all, right? You can probably hear that from my voice. I'm not like typical English British person, like the typical wealthy sort of person that you'd see. I just love everything that's nitty-gritty about life. But when I was in school, I would not sit there with the popular kids on lunch. I would sit there doing my homework. I was the geek. All I wanted to do was get home, go to my computer games, work out how to use Photoshop to make my magazines. There's always something going in my brain. My friends think I'm mental. I wake up at 5 a.m. and Amy, she goes to me, you don't just get out of bed, you leap out of bed. You're like a zombie getting out of bed because my mind is constantly going. I am always thinking, what's next? What's next? I told you guys earlier that I'm constantly moving. I'm moving places because I don't know where I want to be. I'm constantly thinking, what's next? I'm constantly thinking about new ideas. I text my employees at 5 a.m, 4 a.m sometimes when I have an idea, because I just want to note it down. I'm just thinking of the next thing. And I'm always so on the ball. I find it so hard to switch off. I can only like really switch off for a 5-day holiday. I couldn't think of anything worse than going away for 2 weeks because my legs would be going. Yeah, my leg would be going. I'd be thinking, I need to get back. I want to work. I enjoy working. I enjoy being busy. Like my friends go to me, you're doing too much. I don't think I am. I like being busy. I like waking up in the morning, freeing my mind, filming for the app, exercising, sitting back down, doing a couple Zoom calls, being here, there and everywhere. I said to you guys earlier about the jobs that I've turned down tomorrow, and I was trying to get a flight to the fitness retreat, and I was looking at like a 12-hour flight with a stopover just to go to Spain. I give everything what I do 100%, and I never stop thinking what's next. And I think to be successful and to have a successful business, you do have to make a lot of sacrifices. You do. I know it's a very typical thing that people probably hear on this all the time. Oh, you have to make a lot of sacrifices, but you do.
What are they?
You do. I mean, I'm not going to be here for my niece's birthday party, so I'm going to see her the week before. For example, I'm not always seeing my friends. I have to say to my friends, guys, I can't come out tonight because tomorrow I want to be fresh. I have to cancel dinners. I have to cancel things. To be honest with you, if they're good friends, they're going to stay around. And I always just think I am very cautious to know that I need to still make time for people, and I need to still make time for my family and friends. I'm still a good daughter. I'm still a good auntie. I'm still a good sister. But unfortunately, my business means a lot to me. It's what makes me happy.
So tell us, what is it that gives you that energy to spring out of bed every morning? What is it that gives you the energy to turn down dinner invites?
Loving what I do.
So, and again, that's a great thing. And I get the concept. But I'm thinking for people listening to this are going, I think I've got energy, but I need it to be channeled. I'd love to know what is it that, like, define what is it that you do? Because it's more than just making money.
Oh,
what's the sense of purpose?
Of course. So it's changing people's lives. And I know that's cliche. It's people saying to me, I've suffered with food my whole life and you've helped me recover from an eating disorder. It's people saying to me, I've had cancer and I've got one girl who does my workouts and she's literally got one arm. Anything is possible. Like, exercise is such a huge relief, and seeing these people's lives change so much, how can you not be motivated and inspired to do that every single day? Of course, not everyone's going to be a trainer, not everyone's going to be a personal trainer, so that's not going to apply to everyone, but find something that is rewarding. It's not just your work, by the way, it's things that you do outside of work, something that might help people outside of work, and then you're going to be happier when you go to work. Not everyone's going to be in a job that they're going to feel personally rewarded for, right? You guys run this podcast, but there's people around here that the podcast isn't necessarily rewarding for them. It's a rewarding job because they get to see how many lives this podcast changes, but they're not at the forefront of it. But you can't always be at the forefront of everything, right? But the little things that you do in life, and you can see people that are getting happier, they're getting more rewarded from certain things, that's so life-changing. And that's going to be your get up and go.
And how do you work out who gets to come on the journey with you? How do you pick the team around you? Because, you're central to this, right? And they're there with you, but they're not you. So how do you work out who needs to be and what do you look for?
It's really hard. I've lost like 4 employees over the last 2 years. One of them being my best friend. And I've actually recently fell out with my best friend from work.
Why?
I don't know.
Really?
You do?
Yeah.
Go on, tell us.
I actually don't know. And I feel like it's really sad because we was best friends. She started working for me. It was never an issue with work. Maybe, again, like, we're very 2 different persons. She's very sensitive. I'm not. But, yeah, I don't know. I moved to London and I just feel like we really drifted apart. And however much we tried to make that work, it wasn't working. And I don't feel like people are always as genuine as they feel like, as you want them to be. I feel like I was holding on to friendships that, and I mean, I always say to you guys, I just said to you earlier, don't surround yourself with people that don't have your best interests. And I was doing that, basically. I was trying to make something work that wasn't working. And sometimes you have to let go of people. And unfortunately, I had to let go of my best friend. I had to let go of people in the workplace because they don't want the best for you and they don't want to be part of that life.
And as somebody then that has spent a lot of time looking for validation from other people. How do you deal with that when maybe you and your friend do have that fallout, and like, how does that make you feel, and how do you now process it?
Oh, it's horrible. It's initially horrible. It's that feeling of, have I done something wrong? And that's honestly, and I know I said to you earlier, I've come so far. The first thing I thought of when I've stopped being friends with her, this is recent, by the way.
Yeah.
I thought, what have I done? What have I done wrong? It's not me. It's not her. It's just we're both not connecting. And as I said earlier, you're not someone else's emotions. I don't know how she's feeling. She doesn't know how I feel. I mean, even though we're vocalizing it to each other, we're still taking it the wrong way. And sometimes it's good to just take a step back. And it's good to know that sometimes things aren't going to work out. Everything can't be hunky-dory. Like, you can't be getting on with everyone all the time. And sometimes these relationships just don't work anymore. People grow as different people.
Yep.
You want different things.
I mean, like, as you're saying it, Courtney, I'm reminded of the echoes of a previous interview we did with the Dutch footballer Robin van Persie, that spoke about how when he'd started on his footballing career, he had this dream that his friendship group were the guys that were going to come with him and experience all the great things he did. And he reached a plateau in his career where he had to make the decision of, your journey's at an end with me now. We need to, I'll still love you and I'll always have affection, but I need to go in a different direction without you guys. So how do you now determine who comes with you on this next stage of the journey? Who becomes a member of your new tribe?
I think it's hard to know someone's true intentions, and that does take a long time to build that trust in people. But for example, my assistant Alex, she beams everything that I would ever want someone to work for me for. She's honest, she's open, she tells me when I'm in the wrong. If I say something and she thinks she doesn't agree with it, she tells me. People, you need to have honest and open people around you. You don't want people to be agreeing with everything you say all the time. If you come into this podcast and your team don't agree with something you say, do you want them to tell you, or do you want to come on here and just do it anyway? You want an honest opinion. If you still feel like that's right in your gut, then still go with it. But you don't want people to just agree with what you're saying because, oh, you've got a big audience or people normally pussyfoot around you. Like, you don't want that. You want someone to really want you to do the best. But you want the best for them as well, right?
Yeah.
You need to also reciprocate that. Otherwise, that's not going to last for very long. And I've learned that in business as well. Always check in with how people are. Always be really considerate and always really want to know how someone else is feeling, because it's not just you that matters, it's them as well. And if you're not caring with people that are working for you, your team around you, they're going to get bored. And I've learned that. I mean, maybe that's what happened with my best friend. Maybe I wasn't caring enough for her. Maybe that was a little bit me.
Or maybe it's just okay.
Yeah, and it's fine.
And life moves on.
Life does move on. And sometimes you're making it worse by just trying to make it perfect all the time and trying to make things work that aren't meant to work. And that's fine. Life does move on.
I'm really interested as well to talk about your decision making, because you built a whole business around people going to the gym, and then lockdown came and you had to pivot, and then your whole business had to be about home workouts. Well, yeah, let's talk about scary and then talk about how you turn it from scary into successful.
It's crazy because I could never imagine myself. Everyone says to me now, like, what gym do you go to? No, don't step foot in the gym. I've tried it. I've dabbled back in it. Hated it. But I was so hell-bent on going to the gym. It was your release. I used to laugh at people that used to do home workouts. And then this got thrown on me. And I've just spent all of my life savings, everything that I earned my money on. I mean, I've got a flat. I mean, how am I going to afford to pay for my flat? I've just paid for this app. I've filmed every single workout on gym equipment. And then we've gone into lockdown. Literally, the launch for my app was the week before lockdown.
And just to reiterate, you put your life savings into the app? You've taken a big risk. People don't talk often enough in business about the risk. Tell us the risk of this app.
Everything. Every penny that I earned, doing them 14-hour days, working on bank holidays, doing everything that I could in that gym, earning the money from the ebooks. I literally just had this app and my flat. I mean, that was it. Wow. I've gone from thinking, okay, this app's going to turn over this much. It already had a few subscribers, to thinking, what the hell? Everyone's going to unsubscribe. I'm not working in the gym anymore. We're not allowed to work in the gym. I'm self-employed. I'm fucked.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So just go back and tell us about the app then, for people that don't know it. So what was the intention behind it, and why were you confident that it was going to be successful to go all in on it?
Scaling a business. It's the most important thing you can do in a business. Like, it's the same as if you're teaching one child, why can't you get 4 kids in that class and scale your business bigger? I was earning I was selling crazy amounts of ebooks. Like, and when I say crazy amounts, I remember it cost me £100 to make this ebook, right? It probably took me a week to make it, and I earned like 300k off of it. Right. So I'd sold a shit ton of ebooks, yeah. And this was just a PDF document. It's changing so many people's lives.
Yeah.
What am I going to do next? I can't have 10, 15, 30 ebooks. People are going to be so bored of that. There's only so much you can put in an ebook.
Okay.
How can I scale this into something bigger? How can I hit people all around the world? How can I add videos? How can I add voiceovers? How can I really tap into someone, help them with their food, help them with their nutrition, make it more personalized so I can tell them how many calories they're eating, how to make themselves feel better, how to fuel their day? It's an app, right?
Brilliant.
There's no better thing that you can do in business than have a subscriber base. A subscriber base that is there and they're loyal, right? Do you have a subscriber base for your podcast? Of course you do. You've just started the premium range, right? There's nothing better you can do for your business than to have a loyal subscriber base, and to have that scaled. I mean, if I think about it, if I had, so say like 30,000 people bought these ebooks, and I had 30,000 people on an app paying $15.99 a month. I don't even need to explain that to you. That's a shit ton of money, right? Yeah. And you're helping so many more people.
But what's interesting here is we've spoken about the purpose. The purpose of the app was it to make money, or was it to reach as many people as possible and change their lives?
Reach as many people.
Because then the byproduct is you make money.
I never thought that I was going to have this many subscribers, don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like, you just want to be comfortable, you want to be happy, you want to be earning a good wage, and you want to be able to fund this app. I mean, in lockdown, I didn't charge for any of them workouts. I was still doing it unpaid. I worked for 5 months unpaid. I actually raised money for charities during it instead. I said, if you want to donate after these workouts, then do that. I did not earn a penny for 5 months. I was still thinking in my head, like, what am I going to do? Yeah. So I had this app, but it didn't have any subscribers on it because it only had gym workouts on it.
Right.
I don't develop the app myself. I couldn't overnight change it to a home workout app. So I thought, what can I do instead? I built up a loyal following. I built up a loyal amount of people doing these things for free. 30,000 people, 35,000 people was coming on live, but 200,000 people was actually watching that video and doing that workout because you could post it. So this was a huge, huge following. I was gaining 30,000 followers overnight. I wrote it in my notes every single night how many followers I was gaining. I was just so excited about coming on. That was the highlight of my day, was doing that 9 a.m. workout.
So can I ask you a question that links to the very first answer that you gave then? You spoke to us about how when you were a young girl, you felt an awful lot of pressure, and that then manifested itself in the eating disorders and that horrible self-talk that you had. So as you're doing this now, you've got the pressure of, you've launched an app, you've gone all in with the money, you've got more and more eyeballs coming watching these workouts, you're feeling that there's nowhere to hide, like the belly rolls or the flaws that you might have. How did you now process pressure differently than when you were 17 and it manifested itself in such horrible ways?
I tapped it into business. So through lockdown, I didn't have any bad thoughts about what I look like. It's weird, not one. Maybe every now and then, but I didn't sit there and worry about what people was thinking about what I looked like. But then I started having the issue of worrying about people judging what I was doing and not liking my what I was giving in the workouts, not liking things that I was posting on Instagram. So that moved over to the business side of things. And that's when I needed to start having the therapist, and I knew that I really needed to tap into this and see what was channeling this.
So you got the therapist when you got
when
it
the business
right.
was
Okay.
booming. Literally when the business was
That's
booming.
interesting, because most people would do that when they're struggling.
Yeah,
right?
no.
So there's real foresight there. And so what did you, when you go and see a therapist, right, and they go, what's the problem? You kind of go in and go, well, life's never been better. So what did you explain to that therapist you wanted from those sessions?
Well, no, I remember I actually rang the therapist crying my eyes out.
Really?
Actually, yeah. So I was in this big house that I just bought for myself. I was as I say, 25-year-old girl in a five-bedroom house, my own gym studio in the garden. I had everything I ever wanted, and I was happy.
Yeah.
I wasn't unhappy, don't get me wrong, and I was really happy, but I was getting so overwhelmed. I had my first panic attack in my office in that room, and I could not breathe. And this was the day that I rang the therapist. Right.
So describe a panic attack for someone that
This is the only one I've ever had, by
one.
the way. I've not had one since.
Okay, go on.
I was sitting on the floor and I could not breathe. And I could not breathe for a good hour.
And what had triggered it? What had happened leading up to this?
I think it was days and days of little tiny comments, by the way. It's so superficial when you look at it. But people going, I didn't like that you done this. I don't like this, what you've posted. But remember, I've put my heart and soul into this for like 2 years. I loved my community and I loved the people that I'd built and I loved the followers. I genuinely feel like I walk down the street and someone stops me, I stand there, have a conversation with them because they feel like they know me and I feel like I know them. Like I literally have, I train with them every single day. I'm like there for them every single day. So to think that someone didn't like what I was doing affected me so much and it got so overwhelming. I mean, I had books out at this time. I had like, I was going on big people's podcasts. I was talking to big people and I was just so overwhelmed. And I sat there and I think it was one silly little comment. I remember it was one silly little comment. I think it was something as stupid as, why have you called that workout that? And I thought, and I just remember sitting there and I was getting so overwhelmed and I was on my own in this office. And I remember I was in my pajamas as well. Because I remember I used to like get in my pajamas at like 4:30 and just carry on working in my pajamas to feel comfortable. I was having a panic attack in my pajamas. And then I was ringing a therapist. I felt like a nutcase. I was so erratic. I was like, what is going on? What is going on? I didn't tell anyone that I rang this therapist. And then I booked in with her the next week. And I just remember feeling nuts. The instant she was getting me putting my hand on my head, my hand on my chest. She was amazing, don't get me wrong. She's completely changed the way that I see business. The first couple of sessions, I thought, I'm a nutter. I honestly sat there thinking, what am I doing? I'm literally sitting there. She's making me go. I'm thinking, she's making me imagine myself on a beach and connecting to things.
Yeah.
And what was the purpose of that? Do you know?
It was so spirit. It was tapping into how I was deeply feeling and what I was, and just getting me away and just chilling me out, basically. She was trying to chill me
Calming
out.
your breathing
Trying to
down.
calm me down.
Yeah.
She was telling me when I was waking up, because I'd wake up quite a lot in the night. And she was like, when I wake up, put your hand on your chest and take deep breaths, and put your hand on your head and take deep breaths. I felt mental. It helped me so much. I listened to a podcast with Jay Shetty and he spoke about breathing.
Yeah.
And old me would listen to that and thought, what is he going on about?
What nonsense, yeah.
What nonsense. It is powerful.
Yep.
These sort of things are so powerful. Tapping into things and just chilling out.
So when did you stop feeling like a nutter then?
When it started working. When I started sleeping better and when I was actually listening to her thinking, look, I'm paying this woman and I really want to calm down and I really want to have that nice balance of being always on the go, but also knowing how to find my calm. I never trusted anyone to do any jobs that I didn't want to do. I mean, since the day that I met her, I've employed like a team of 10 people.
You were a control freak before then, were you?
Massively. I only had one person working for me. And even then I didn't trust what she was doing. I felt like I had to do everything to make it perfect. I would never, ever, ever have hired a CTO. I mean, I've got a chief technical officer now doing meetings for me and then coming back and telling me things. It's just losing that control and losing that power and knowing that you're not going to be good at everything. And I always felt like I had to have the power. I had to control because I'd built this business myself. I felt like I was the only one that could do it. But how can I then go back to me telling you guys, to scale out, I wanted to build this app. To scale out, you've got to have other people that are better at you than what you are.
Yeah.
You're not going to be the best at everything. And I think that's where I was quite overwhelmed and stuff, was I was putting this insane amount of pressure on myself to be here, there and everywhere, say yes to everything and do everything in my business that I just couldn't do.
But there's a pattern here in terms of two of the answers that you've said, that like when you decided to remove those fillers and you describe that really, really powerfully, and you then started saying no to going out for dinner with people that you didn't want to.
And started saying no to doing things that I didn't feel good in.
Yeah, and then it sounds like the wave has come again where you've then filled it with lots of other purposeful activity for the business. And then you've had the panic attack and somebody said the therapist has taught you, allow space, give yourself time to think, and you've then gone through this next chapter of your career. So
Do you know what that just screams to me? Addictive.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm asking you, so how do you spot, so far you've described two patterns where you've given yourself time to calm, you've grown, and then you've filled it with busyness, and then you've had another moment where you've had to find time to calm, you've grown it again. How do you avoid it happening a third or a fourth time then?
I think tapping into it early. You know when you're getting a bit too you're getting a bit too controlling, you're getting a bit too addicted to something. And there's nothing wrong with having an addictive personality, right? It's made me be the businesswoman that I am today. And I think a lot of high performers, a lot of successful people say the same thing. They say they've got an addictive personality. It is a thing, and it's not a bad thing, but you've got to know how to have that balance. And listening to other people, having good people around you, not thinking you can do everything yourself, I think is the most important thing. And I think when you get addictive and you get obsessive over something, it's because you think you know the best all the time. You don't think you should listen to anyone else. You don't think you should take advice to anyone else. It's listening to podcasts. It's listening to other entrepreneurs. It's listening to therapists. It's listening to people that you just love, people that you respect their decisions. And it's actually taking in what they're saying and not thinking that you're always the best all the time, which is an easy thing to slip into.
After this hour-long conversation, it kind of actually takes us all the way back to the very beginning. And now it's all about being reminded that empathy is actually what matters. And the Courtney Black that we would have spoken to 5 or 6 years ago,
I would never have been here.
Would have had opinion at the
I would never have been here.
Yeah.
I would never have been here. And I honestly don't think that if I didn't get rid of them fillers, if I wasn't true to myself, and if I wasn't back to who I was, nothing in lockdown would have happened. I would never have gained the trust of all them people. Never, ever. And I needed that little moment to be back to who I was and to be successful. And that's why I said you need to be genuine to be successful, because nobody wants to love someone who doesn't love themselves and who doesn't genuinely believe in what they're preaching.
What a fascinating journey it's been for you, and an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
We've now reached the moment for our quick fire questions.
Okay, I'm scared.
You've been good so far. You've been good on these. I'm confident.
What are the 3 non-negotiables that people around you have to buy into to be part of your world?
Driven.
Yep.
Charismatic. Know how to work a room. I think that's a very important quality. Knowing how to talk to different kinds of people. If you can't go in and talk to people that you've never spoken to before and be thrown in the deep end and be able to communicate with people that you're not really used to, that's a big red flag for me, especially in business and especially in people that I would want to be around. And calming energy. I want people to be able to calm each other down and be able to be empathetic to each other and being able to maybe take things in the right way when they sometimes can seem negative.
Nice.
What's your greatest weakness and what's your biggest strength?
My greatest weakness is I'm super impatient. Super impatient. Everything's got to be go, go, go. And that's made me to make big decisions. So I'm very on the spot. I can think on the spot. But sometimes it's not a good thing. But it's also made me make the biggest decisions and it's made me excel the most in my career. And did you say my biggest strength? I am a very loyal and loving person. And what I do is always with the best interest at heart. I'm a very, very loyal person. And I think that really shines through in everything that I do.
What is the lowest moment in your whole life or your biggest failure? And how did you react to it?
I think the lowest moment is when I was living in that flat and I had the eating disorder and I was just going through relationships and everything that was making me feel worse about myself, and I was seeking validation out of people that I should never have seek validation from. And sorry, what was the second bit?
And how did you react to it?
How did I react to it? As I say, just in a miserable spell of trying to overcompensate, trying to be someone that I wasn't, and then but it made me the person I am today. It literally did. If that didn't happen, I would not be here.
We talk often on this podcast that what is hard for you isn't necessarily bad for you. And you've lived a life of really hard moments.
Yeah, 100%.
Have equipped you with what you need to do.
I've not even touched base on things that I've literally like my dad, for example, and other things that have happened in my life which have made me the person who I am today. And I agree. Everything that's I laugh about this all the time. Every time, I mean, I've been single for 5 years, right? Whenever I see someone, I gain something from it. I feel like crap at the time because something bad's happened or something's happened, it's not worked out. I always learn something and I always gain something. And I always feel like I would never take that back.
So what's been the biggest learning you've had from a relationship?
Don't trust people on face value. Don't seek validation from people that are love bombing or no one's perfect basically. And everyone can make them seem like they live this perfect life and they're going to have the most perfect thing for you. But that's not realistic. People have flaws. And when people show you their flaws, is the best people to be around. Not people that are trying to be perfect all the time.
Love that. What one book would you recommend for our listeners?
The Magic of Thinking Big. I love that one. And
That Maxwell Maltz, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I said to you earlier, how to win friends and influence
Yeah.
people.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What's the one question that we should have asked you in this interview and we haven't?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe more about like where I think the eating disorder come from, and where I think the initial, like how I grew as a person, because I think a lot of that did come from my family base, and we've not even touched base on that. But I think that molded me as a person, and I never thought it until I had my therapist.
What did the therapist say that made you realise that?
She touched base on like my childhood, and she wanted to go a bit deeper than obviously just the dancing thing. And she wanted to go a bit deeper about when my mum and dad split up and how that made me feel, how I've not spoke to my dad since I was 12, but he still speaks to my sister, and that feeling of being like losing someone that I was super close to, and trying to maybe overcompensate that with like my food and stuff, because even down to the fact that my dad always used to give me loads of chocolate, loads of sweets. So I was trying to remove that from myself and see that as a trigger food, see that as a bad food.
Right.
And it's crazy how like you look back and something that you would never have thought of might have made you triggered could potentially
So
have
did
made
the
you
therapist
triggered.
trace all this, a lot of this back to your dad?
Yeah. No, not all of it at
But a
all.
lot of it.
But she just touched base on it.
Yeah.
And I don't actually blame him for that. I mean, I don't blame my dad for anything in life. If anything, it's made me a stronger person. And I don't think he's a bad person. He's just not a good dad. So for me, like, I don't think that was a big part of my life. And it was just an accumulation of all different things that happen. That you
So
just
why
gotta
do you
touch
not
base
speak to him now?
on. I don't, as I say to my mum says all the time that he's probably upset that he doesn't talk to me, but he doesn't feel like he would give me any value. He would just bring me down. My dad's a massive drug addict.
So that's his decision not to
It's
speak
his
to you.
decision, yeah. So he talks to my sister, as I say, but me and my sister are very different again.
Mm.
And it's, when I look at it, it's upsetting, but it doesn't upset me. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I don't think you should be around family members just because they're family members. I
But-
don't feel like he would bring me any positivity. I don't feel like I would bring him any joy.
But forgive me for asking this
No, it's
because it
fine.
might seem a bit crass, but you've just revealed about your dad being a drug addict, and one of the comments you made about yourself was it's an addiction.
Yeah, 100%.
So do you worry that some of this is you can trace back some of your addictive personality
Probably.
to your dad?
100%, probably. Because when my dad was a good dad, a good family man, he loved his kids, couldn't do anything wrong. But as I say, he's got an addictive personality. He was working addictively. He was then super addicted to the drug. He still is super addicted to the drugs. I obviously didn't know a lot that was going on behind closed doors. But yeah, and I mean, the food is a bad thing. My sister's got an addictive personality as well. She was in the opposite to me. My sister was severely overweight. So she had the complete adverse to me. And earlier, I said to you about I made someone cry in the studio. I used to do the same to my sister. I couldn't understand why she couldn't stop eating. My sister, again, had an eating disorder, but in reverse. And it's all about how you channel that addictive personality.
So when we interviewed Joe Wicks, he spoke to us about his own father being an addict. And he said one of the big lessons that he'd learned about addiction was almost like the antidote to addiction was connection, was bring people closer to them, because then you can start to understand them and help them rather than set them at a distance. And yet you've done that, putting people at a distance. So how do you feel that is helpful as opposed to Joe's philosophy of bringing people closer?
I feel like some people just don't want to be helped. And
Okay.
I feel like even if I was closer to my dad, there was no helping my dad. Like, there is no helping my dad with that. And I feel like he knows that as well. Otherwise, he would have reached out. And I feel like he's had a lot of chances to reach out to me. And I probably would have. I'm a very loving person. But I feel like he doesn't want to be helped.
Sure.
There's going to be a day maybe when he does. And obviously that's fine. Like, we can work on that then. But I do feel like there is, of course, it's bringing people closer and it's having their back and stuff. But sometimes you just can't help someone if they don't want to be helped. I didn't want to be helped with my eating disorder. I did not want to be helped until I wanted to be helped. And then that was the point where I knew that something had to change. No matter how close someone brought to me, I was not going to listen to them.
And have you worked hard on, because we've spoken so much about empathy in this conversation, have you worked hard on having empathy for your dad? We've used the phrase many times, you would act exactly like that person if you'd lived their life. And it's that understanding that they've gone through things that we perhaps don't even know, and that's why they are like they are.
100%. I don't hate my dad at all. I don't look at my dad and I don't feel like I hate him. I don't feel anything bad for him. I don't have any love for my dad as a father, but I don't hate him. If he was struggling, I would help him. I could go into a room now and I would still give my dad a cuddle and say hello. Like I bumped into him like maybe 5 years ago at my sister's house. Didn't ignore him. I don't have hatred for him, but we're just two different people, and that's fine. And as I said earlier, it's okay to remove yourself from people that aren't fitting into your life. Yeah. And I think that's completely fine.
And actually, it's also a reminder that if you're going to carry anger for someone who's done what your dad has done, in a strange way, you also have to carry gratitude as well, because you have to realize that as negative as those things are that have brought your life, you probably would not be sitting here having this conversation with us.
And he could try to drag me down. He could try. My dad could try reach out to me. He knows that's what my mum said to me the other day. He said he knows that he's not going to be bringing you any value except from drag you down. And it's quite sad when she said that to me, to be fair, because I thought that is quite true. But he knows that if he did try it into my life, it wouldn't bring me anything good. And
that's an act of love in itself.
It's an act of love itself. And I've never seen it that way before. And when you think about it like that, you've got to be thankful, and you've got to, again, have that gratitude. You don't have to hate people for everything. They don't mean it. Like, he didn't go out and think, I'm going to make her not be close to me anymore.
No 5-year-old kid dreams of being a drug addict.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
They're grown up, you know what I mean?
Exactly. He didn't want to lose my mum.
No.
He didn't want all this to happen. He loves his family. But unfortunately, it's just the path that it's took for him for now. You can always come out of it, but for now, that's where he is, and that's where things need to go.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And your one final message to the people listening to this, and it may well be that they're struggling like you used to. It may well be that they want to be entrepreneurs, or they might already be running successful businesses. What one golden rule would you like to leave our listeners with for living their own version of high performance?
Don't seek validation from anyone else. And even though you're listening to these podcasts, I listen to podcasts all the time. Someone's story is not the same as your own. And just because someone lives a certain way does not mean that that's going to work for you as well. 100%.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the last
Thank you.
hour and a bit.
It was brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, really.
That was really good. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well done, Courtney.
Woo!
Just a quick one to say thank you so much for watching this content on the High Performance channel. We would love it if you would subscribe. You know, most people that watch what we do don't subscribe. If you can subscribe, we can make this bigger, better, bolder than we've ever done before. So hit subscribe right now and help the High Performance Podcast make a real difference to the world. See you soon.